Okay, so right before we hit record for this video, what happened?
We noticed that the channel got 100,000 subs, and that's incredible. Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much for the support. And to celebrate, we are going to talk about
Chords. Really? That was a horrible transition, but we're going to go with it.
We're going to go with it.
Yeah.
But first, this. All right, Chris, so the idea today is to build chords that sound rich and complex and beautiful without having to necessarily learn a bunch of new chords that are sometimes difficult on the fingers.
Right.
It's very simple, and it all has to do with the simple rule that chords and the scale are intimately linked.
Right. We're stacking thirds.
We're stacking thirds.
Every chord, there's exceptions to this where if you have a close interval in there, a 1 and a 2 or whatever. But chords, when you build them, are stacked thirds. That's how they're named. That's how they're approached. And so what we're going to do is we're going to illustrate that with two guitars using really basic triad-based chords. So the chords that you play and the chords that I play are not going to have any extensions at all. They're going to be root, third, fifth, major or minor or diminished chords. But the combination of what you play and what I play is going to yield some, it's going to yield some really pretty seventh chords. And it's going to yield some really pretty ninth chords.
We're basically using the power of two players to have more notes. Chris is only going to play maybe 3 notes. I'll play 3 notes, but 3 plus 3 equals more than that. Some notes are going to be doubled, but that's kind of the thing here. And I think before we get into that, we should just illustrate how standard chords are built.
How it works.
How it works. So let's take a major scale. Pick a key. Doesn't matter.
A. Let's do A.
Let's do A. So we have, you'll be the player for this. So we've got an A major scale. So if you just play that major scale. Okay. So we have 7 notes, right? And we kind of got into intervals in a previous video, but we've got 7 notes here. And if you play your very first note, let's hear how that sounds. And now play the 3rd note. So skip the 2nd. And now
we're doing an octave higher.
And now let's add to that the 5th note of the scale. And that's a triad. That's a very simple form triad that we have using basically the 1st note, the 3rd, and the 5th.
Right.
And that's what a triad is. And depending on which note of the 7-note scale we start with, we'll have different types of triads. And there's going to be 3 possible types of triads.
So let's look at that here. We've got this triad that we just built, right? But if we add, we stacked the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. If we stack the 7th on top of that, for example, we would have this. But the cool thing here, and this is what we're going to exploit, the cool thing is here we actually have 2 different triads. We have our 7th chord, but we have the A major triad, and then we have the C sharp minor triad. And what we're doing, one way to look at it is we're combining the 2 triads. But we're going to do that across 2 different guitars and across tons of different range. So let's do that right now. I'm going to play an A major triad. You're going to play a C sharp minor triad, but do it in a different place on the guitar and it'll sound right. So if we play that really nicely together,
it blends very, very well.
Now, if we take this a step further, I'm going to add just 1 duplicate note. So I'm going to have root, 3rd, 5th, root. And then you're going to play a 4-note chord as well. Maybe in that same range. 1, 2, 3. And we could keep going with that. Let's say I'm going to come down here and I'll just play a normal A major chord. And then you'll play a C sharp minor chord. Ooh, and you could go higher.
That's beautiful.
We're playing. The sum total is a beautiful, rangy A major 7 chord.
Yep.
So, and then the other thing we're doing is we're going to build two triads together based off of a single chord, and then the root being a fifth above instead of a third above, like we just did. So for that, so if you play an A, a regular old A,
Okay.
I would play an E chord, full chord. We can just do the full chord. And this is one of the most beautiful things you will ever hear.
Yeah.
One more time with more high notes. Oh, it's
Very
just,
rich.
Yeah.
So let's take this. Let's break it down to make
Yeah.
sure that it's understood, and then we'll experiment a little more.
Yeah.
One of the main things that we need to know is the main key that
Right.
we're playing in, and we're going to consider an E major key, for example. E major. If we were to take each of the 7 notes of E major and build triads on them, we need to know what kind of triads come in which place.
Right.
So that's
Major
the
scale harmony.
first thing. Right. And as a reminder, major scale harmony, the first degree, or if we build the triad from the first, we'd have a major triad, followed by a minor triad, major, major, minor, and diminished on the 7th. Why don't we just take a look at those 3 positions, and then we can, of course, expand on more positions if we want, but we're just going to give you guys like 3 main simple ways to play those 3 types of triads.
Sure.
And then we'll experiment a little bit. So what we're going to do here, we're going to show just the positions. We'll do that in A. So here's our first, that's a major triad because the first note is a root right here, followed by a major third and a perfect fifth. So let's play that again. Major triad. And you can move that along the neck if you need to, but that's an A major triad. Now let's take that same shape, and the third, which is major, we're going to make it minor, 1 fret lower. That's an A minor triad. And we have root, minor third, and fifth. Now let's go one step further, and we're going to build a diminished triad. So, yep, the only thing that moves is that fifth. That fifth is going to be diminished, 1 fret lower. Okay, now let's play these 3 one after the other. We'll play A major, okay, A minor, yep, and A diminished. Perfect.
So now why don't we build the triads all the way up the A major scale? Just
Great idea.
do the harmony.
Yep. It's your major
A
triad
major.
right there. Minor triad. We're on the
D
2nd
minor.
degree. Yep.
C sharp minor.
Followed by a major triad.
D major triad.
Yep. The next one is major for the 5th degree.
That'd be E.
And we have a minor triad.
F sharp minor.
Yep.
And then here we've got diminished.
Yep. Perfect. And that's the 7th.
Yeah.
And so that's the principle that we're going to use here when we're stacking things, which I realize that this will work when there's 2 guitar players like this, but also in recording situations, it's awesome to do that.
Yeah.
When, you know.
Yeah, right. And it's a huge just brain workout.
It is.
Once you realize that you can stack triads, I feel like chords with a lot of extensions become less intimidating
They do.
in some ways easier to use.
Much easier.
And from an improvisation standpoint, I mean, this is really powerful because if you think in triads when you improvise or think in chord shapes, you can very easily simplify things down. Well, wait a minute. We're in the key of E, and he's playing an E, but I could actually improvise around a B chord.
Yeah.
And then the tonal possibilities that happen, you know, we'll get into that in maybe a later video.
I think so, yeah.
But this is excellent foundation for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've got an example, and the example's in the key of E. You may recognize the track if you're familiar with the YouTube channel.
Yep.
And the chord progression is?
4 chords. We have an A major, followed by a G sharp minor. After that, we have a B major. And then we're going to end on an E major. All that is in the key of E major. So really, the first chord is starting on the 4 of the scale, right? Let's take it chord by chord. We've got our A, and I'm thinking, okay, A, a third up. So A is 4. So 4, 5, 6. 6 is minor, so I'm going to play a C sharp minor triad over your A major triad. great.
Sounds great.
And it's important to note that the chord that I'm playing, that I'm embellishing, is going to be played higher, because if it was lower, then the ear would be attracted to that low note and think that I'm playing the foundation.
Right.
And you're not.
Right.
So that's kind of important to have that distinction. And
Yep.
you might want to even experiment like playing that embellishment chord even an octave higher to have even more separation. Which,
right.
Let's give that a try.
To me, and this is where, you know, improv is just so cool, this sounds more like two different guitars.
Yeah.
Right? If we're playing closer, it sounds, you know, cool. One guitar player maybe could play something close to that, you know. So lots of freedom there. So the first chord.
Okay. So that's, you're playing A major, I'm playing C sharp minor. The second chord is a G sharp minor.
G sharp minor.
And on that, I'm going to look at the third up, which would be, in this E major context, a B major. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I like that.
Now, another important thing here, notice neither of us, and we said this a little bit earlier, but neither of us are playing extensions.
Yeah.
We're playing the most basic chords. This doesn't hold up if we start adding independently, if we start adding extensions. It only adds up because we're both intentionally being very basic.
Yeah, because two basics equals a complex.
Right.
A complex and a complex equals
a mess.
A mess. Yeah, there you go. Okay, great. So the third chord that you have is a B major, and over that, I'll be playing a D sharp diminished chord.
Yeah.
And I'm very familiar with that. I'll keep messing it up, but here it is.
And this is really cool because that's a dominant sound.
It is.
This is a B chord, which is the 5 of E.
Yep.
And we've created a dominant sound by playing a diminished chord over a standard 5 chord.
Yeah, because I'm the notes that I'm playing, there are some notes in common with yours. The third and the fifth are common, but I'm adding that 7th.
The dominant 7.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's why we get this this sound right here.
Yeah, sounds great.
And finally, the last chord that we have here is an E major, and over your E major, I'll be playing G sharp minor.
Wonderful major 7 sound.
Let's give this a try over the backing track.
Perfect.
1, 2, 3, 4. Beautiful. Take it an octave higher.
So that's super basic, right? We're just getting familiar with how that concept works. Let's take it a step further, though, before we start getting any fancier. And let's do a fifth above, a triad a fifth above every chord that we play.
Okay.
That's in the progression. So again, our progression is A major, G sharp minor, B major to E major. So if you play the basic chord progression, if we play an A and I play an E,
Which is a fifth above.
which is a fifth above, we get, which is just so pretty.
It is.
That's a major 9. So now we have less overlapping, right? We've got 1, 3, 5.
1 through 5.
And then we've got this other 1, 3, 5 with E. But what that means is we only have one note overlapping, which means we have 1, 3, 5, and then we have 5, 7, 9.
Yeah,
So the
exactly.
only we've got extra fifths, which are extra sweet sounding anyway.
Yeah. So we're building a 5-note chord together.
Right. Right. It's so cool sounding. Let's do that one again just because it's so fun.
Yep.
Ready? Okay.
The second chord in the chord progression is a G sharp minor chord, and if we take that a fifth up, we'll have
the D sharp diminished.
Yeah.
Our favorite chord of the day.
Yes. It works so well. Let's do that again.
One more time.
It sounds like crap, which is, I really like that.
And this one, it doesn't sound as refreshing as some of the other ones, but in context, it really sounds neat.
Yeah.
So it's important to remember that some of these slightly off ones with a lot of extensions, they'll sound fine in context, and that's where taste as players come in. You know, we're not going to sit here and drill on this particular transition or this particular one like we would maybe the E and the B together, which sounds better.
And I think you're right, but if the reason it sounded a little clashy here, let's do that again. It's because we're taking this and freezing it, and it, like you said, it's outside of the context. But later when we're going to play it over the backing track, that chord is going to sound super smooth and it's going to work because our ear is still going to have that original context of the chord progression.
Right. So the third chord?
The third chord would be a B major. That's what I'll play, and you're going to play a fifth higher than that.
It should be an F sharp minor.
Yep.
Because it's diatonic. It's minor that way.
Yep.
And here we have a 5 of 5 situation, right?
Yeah.
So he's playing the 5 chord of the key, and I'm playing a 5 chord above that.
Yep.
This is things that, this kind of thing in an improvisational sense, and even a chord harmony sense, jazz players use this kind of thing all the time. 5 of 5 is one of the coolest sounds that, that they'll use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, what's happening here is we have a 5-note chord. I'm taking care of the root, the third, the fifth, and there's one overlap there. That's the 5, but you are bringing in the 7 and the 9.
Exactly.
So that's the third chord. And the last chord we have, I'm going to play an E major chord.
And I'm going to play a B major chord.
Beautiful.
And if I play that B major chord a little higher,
Yeah, really brings in a lot of magic.
Yeah. Okay.
That's great.
Let's try that one over the track.
Sounds
Just
good.
real basic.
Yep.
Full basic chords here. It sounds nice.
It sounds great in this context, yeah. You're dominant.
Yeah. Fifth that might be my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more time. Super tasty, you know, and also super basic. I mean, this is the very tip of the iceberg. This mindset or this concept of stacking triads opens up so many possibilities when you think from an improvisational perspective, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that in another video very soon. But first,
I would love for you guys to download this very backing track that we were playing over. You're going to get the track with the simple chords that I was playing, so A major, F sharp minor, B major, and E major, so that you can add those embellishments using the thirds, the fifths, and whatever else you want to experiment with. You're also going to get the PDF, all that for free. All you need to do is visit the link below, enter a valid email address, and you'll get those assets right away to practice this lesson. Rewatch it, because very soon you're going to get part 2, in which we're going to cover improvisation concepts using the same exact concept. If this was your first visit to the channel, you should subscribe, because every single week 3 videos just like this one come out, helping guitar players like you find your voice on the instrument, develop it to tell your own musical story. Thanks for watching this. I'll see you very soon.